If you like the Young Turks podcast, I think you'll love a lot of the podcasts on the TYT network. Old School, it's one of my favorites, one of the favorites for a lot of the listeners. Please check that out, subscribe, share it. That makes a big difference, and give it a 5-star rating. Thank you. Welcome to the Young Turks on a big day. What is this? Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian, not a big deal, just Super Tuesday.
It's a super big deal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a huge day.
Yeah, look, this day is as big as it gets. The only day that'll be bigger is the November election. So it might be over today. It might not. Okay, that's why, oh my God. I mean, if you haven't seen the latest polls, Biden's closing on Bernie. Okay. So he is within 7 in California and is retaking the lead in Texas.
I want to remain in a good mood because this might be the last day that I feel any bit of happiness for the rest of this election cycle. So let's just wait. Let's just wait. Let's not panic.
I'm gonna vote for panic.
Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm kidding. Look, we got an hour of news here, and I got to tell you something really important right now. But before we do that, I just again. The coverage starts at 7 o'clock Eastern because that's when the polls start closing. Obviously, we've got a ton of states across the country.
8 p.m. Eastern. Our election coverage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we are doing Super Tuesday coverage, obviously.
All right. I just know that Mayor Bill de Blasio is joining us next hour, and that's part of the coverage as well. Okay. Anyways. So Texas, California, so many others. But first, let me tell you guys something that we're launching now that's really, really important. So we've been around 18 years, and we made it, at least adulthood for now. And from time to time, we ask you guys for a little bit of help to stay in business, honestly. And so there's a couple of things that we promise you guys in return. One is to constantly put out the progressive message there. I was talking to a reporter recently, and he was tracking how Bernie Sanders rose online. He's like, how did it happen? Well, honestly, we were a decent sized part of that. And I had a fan come up to me recently and say, you know, something weird about the algorithm back in 2015, whenever I searched Bernie Sanders, only your videos would come up. Brother, that one wasn't the algorithm. We were the only ones doing videos about Bernie Sanders, let alone positive videos. And I mean the whole TYT network. And so, and the mainstream media obviously was not. So we've been putting out that progressive message for 18 years now, and we've done it with your help through membership and every once in a while fundraising drives like we're about to do, okay? TYT.com/go. So I'm gonna explain the details of that in a second. But the second promise we give you guys is to help progressives actually get wonderful candidates. As Ryan Grimm reported in his book, we've got people. Young Turks audience raised $2.5 million for Just Democrats. And no one thought it was possible, and look at that. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, let alone the 3 incumbents, Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, and Raul Grijalva. Look, did we do that all by ourselves? Of course not. Did you even do that all by yourselves? Of course not. They ran amazing campaigns. There was other wonderful groups involved, and of course the candidates themselves. But you helped make that happen. We asked you to deliver something. You helped us to do that. Progressive message plus progressive candidates. And the third part of it is change. At the end of the day, what we're all trying to do is get to positive change. If we don't pass the bills, we haven't done it. Now, one of the things I want to do is empower you guys to be able to be those change agents. So we're working on that internally right now. That will launch later this year. But in order to make that happen, all of these things, keep the progressive message on air, help progressive candidates, and most importantly, empower you to make the change. All that's coming this year, but we need your help. So we're trying to raise $200,000 a month for the rest of the year to get to $2 million drive. So if you say, well, Cenk, you do this every once in a while, it's true. We do it every 3 or 4 years, okay? New York Times recently wrote a story about Prager University, and they said, you know, all this laudatory things, oh my God, it's so amazing, it spreads the conservative message on college campuses, et cetera. And in the middle, just one little quick paragraph, it might even been a sentence, oh, by the way, they're funded by 2 right-wing billionaires who give them $23 million a year for free. It's not an investment. We had an investment. Investment's totally different, right? That's used to run your business, grow your business. This is here every year, $20 to $25 million check for free. You do anything you want with it. You don't have to make money. You don't have to do anything else. They have no economic pressure at all. We have infinite economic pressure. So every once in a while, we need you guys, and this is one of those times. So we're gonna try to do one step at a time here. We're asking you to go to tyt.com/go. Every once in a while, we'll show you the thermometer to see how it's going. I'd love to raise 200 a month through the end of the year so we can get 2 million so we make things happen. Look, guys, I'm gonna keep it super real with you guys. I don't know if you know this, but Francis Maxwell, Hassan Piker, Brooke Thomas, they're some of our best hosts ever, and they're not here. Ken Klippenstein, we loved him as a reporter. You guys helped us hire him. Somebody outbid us for him. They did a great job, and I'm super glad they got him. And he's doing great work at the Nation, but we don't have enough money. And so it's not fake, it's super cold, hard reality. And so we're doing our best here to try to make things happen. I hope you can participate with us so that we can do this all throughout the election year. Man, this is such an important election year. It doesn't get any bigger than this. We're calling it endgame, right? Because it is either progressives win and we get everything. We get, not everything, but you get a progressive president, hopefully get a House and Senate that's progressive. Oh my God, we're in position to pass the bills and change people's lives. A story I tell all the time, now backed up by a study that came out from Yale University professors at Lancet that published it saying, yes, Medicare for All in fact saves 68,000 lives a year. Guys, 68,000 people, picture it, that's a stadium. That's a stadium full of people. And either they're gonna live or they're gonna die. It's not exaggeration, it's not hyperbole. If we don't pass bills and we don't get you change, people actually die. They die in wars, they die because they don't have health care, they die because of climate change. We're all on a rescue mission together, and we absolutely positively need your help. We don't do it every year, and we don't ask you unless we need it, unless it's absolutely real. So tyt.com/go, please make that possible for us in this super important election year. All right.
I think we have a fun video to share with you guys.
Yes, that's right. Thank you for reminding me of that. So a little bit of the history of the Young Turks and the kind of change we're trying to do, and this year, right?
Yes, and I just want to note that after the video, we're going to go to a quick break, but this will kind of give you a sense of who we are, what we stand for, and we're hoping that you'll support us and keep us sustainable. The Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump can use military funds to build his border wall.
Source that I saw in their mouth. Trump I believe that.
To acquit Donald Trump.
2020 is endgame. Everything. If progressives win, we're done apologizing. They should apologize to us for all that they have done to us 1,000 times over.
Well, sad day for you. It is the end. And in 2020, we're going to clean your clock.
A major poll indicates that both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are now leading in the Democratic primary.
Here comes Warren. There goes Biden.
Over the past few days, not only has Bernie Sanders gotten a number of high-profile endorsements in some of the early states, he's been doing very well in the early state polls as well.
There's all these establishment candidates that have gotten a lot of airtime that their polling did not merit.
Bernie Sanders is one of the front runners, and that's not an accident.
And if there's gonna be all this media attention on Buttigieg, which there has been, like, yes, we got it, Norwegian, piano, all of that. What about what you did?
For some reason, the media treats him with kid gloves. They're so against going after him on very significant policy issues.
It is increasingly difficult for the American public to get any sort of truth. The majority of America might turn on the evening news for a little while and just unfortunately don't get informed.
Logic is irrelevant, facts are irrelevant. The only thing they got is fear and hatred.
Things are different this time around.
They always work from a point of fear and trying to second guess potential pushback from Republicans. It's a position of fear and lack of control.
There's some chance that Bernie's gonna have an uprising like no one's seen before. And it's it's gonna absolutely shock the establishment.
They all say, we need someone who can beat Donald Trump. You know what they never do after that? Pull out the head-to-head polls with Donald Trump and show that they're the one to do it.
You have these wine cellar meetings and you have these big money donors, and that doesn't necessarily guarantee you much.
So you could try to move mountains and you could do anything you like a month before the election, and it's gonna have a minimal effect.
And gave the Congress the ability to control this president, I got them.
Certainly resonates with people of all political ideologies because we're all in the same boat together. We're dealing with the same frustrations, the same difficulties in providing for our families.
Winning is everything.
Yes.
And he could win Super Tuesday, he could win California. Right now, he's in the lead.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
All right, back on the Young Turks. In 45 minutes, polls close in Alabama, Vermont, who's gonna win it? I'm on pins and needles. And Virginia, oof, for Virginia. Virginia is gonna be a huge state tonight. All right, let me read your comments. Nipple Pierce Jenkins Skinny Jeans writes in, happy Super Tuesday, TYT friends. It's time for Bernie to kill it. Indeed, we'll talk a lot more about that in a little bit. Hillary Clinton's attacking him, we'll talk about that. Tamara says, Cenk, welcome back, brother. Love you and Anna on the show together. Me too, thank you. A bucket of squirrels is ammo against logic says, I first got to watching TYT on my birthday in 2015. I think it was John and Ben talking about Bernie saying he's running. The amount of insight into stories has no comparison. Thank you for that. I wanna thank you and a lot of folks when I meet them on the road, say something similar, which I feel really gratified about. They say, look, I love the passion, etc., but really, I come because you guys give more details to the stories and more facts than everyone else combined. So it's gratifying to hear that. Gabby Marita says, I'm keeping the faith. TYT saw the rise and permanence of AOC before anyone else even considered her a serious candidate. It's the same with Bernie. We don't need to win every race and every state to come out victorious in the end. Thank you, Gabby, we appreciate that. I mean, whatever you say about our contribution to AOC, we certainly saw her coming before anyone else did. There's no question about that. Spinner Man says, donated $127. I support my mother and have 2 daughters in college. In a Bernie world, I could do better. In any case, thank you. No, thank you, brother. So we're doing that, the drive, tyt.com/go. Please, if you can, we're trying to raise money to keep things afloat here. YouTube super chat, Rose Arate says, just donate not because I can, but because I believe. Joseph Garcia says, love TYT, all in YouTube super chat. Last one, Eclectic Miss Chelani on Twitter says, if every one of us donated just $1 every time Cenk made a dad joke, TYT would have more money than MSNBC in no time.
Or every time I roll my eyes at Cenk during the main show.
Okay, deal, I accept. Okay, go forward. In fact, tyt.com/go.
Yeah.
Forward.
Yeah.
Is that $1? Is that $1? It's kind of a dad joke. Go for it. All right, keep going.
Yeah. All right.
How about me rolling my eyes at myself?
We got stories to do.
Okay, we got stories.
Yeah. All right. Sometimes Jesse Waters says things that are so incredibly stupid that his own co-hosts on Fox News can't help but roll their eyes at him. And that calls for one of my favorite branded segments, Dumb Fox.
I define peace as the ability to defend yourself and blow your enemies into smithereens.
I'm from San Diego, man. Those are my tacos.
The Swedes have pure genes. Finns marry other Finns, so they have a pure society.
Shut up and dribble.
This time, the topic of discussion was on the 5, and they were discussing the coronavirus. And Jesse Waters has some strong feelings about the Chinese. He feels that the Chinese government owes America a giant apology. He explains why in this next clip.
I'd like to just ask the Chinese for a formal apology. This coronavirus originated in China, and I have not heard one word from the Chinese. A simple "I'm sorry" would do. It would go a long way. I expect a formal apology tomorrow. Doesn't matter if it comes from Xi or the embassy, and I think all of my colleagues around this table will join arm in arm with me, also demanding a formal apology from the Chinese people. It didn't start here, Dana, and I'll tell you why it started in China. Because they have these markets where they're eating raw bats and snakes.
No, Jesse.
They are a very hungry people. The Chinese communist government cannot feed the people. And they are desperate. This food is uncooked, it's unsafe, and that is why scientists believe that's where it originated from.
So he gets paid to be that stupid, and it's unbelievable to me, but it's Fox, so that's what you can expect. Let me give you the actual details of the coronavirus, and let me also note that there are parts to this story, parts to this virus that are, misreported constantly. So it's not just Fox News. I see all sorts of propaganda out there. And of course, it leads to hatred towards certain groups of people. In this case, the Chinese and people coming from Asia. It leads to unnecessary fear. But here are the facts that we do know. Coronavirus did likely originate from bats, but rumors that Chinese people infected themselves with tainted bat soup are broadly doubted by experts. It's unclear exactly how the first transmission occurred because the wet market, where it is thought to have originated, has been disinfected by the authorities. However, the vast majority of these cases have been confirmed to be person-to-person contact. As news of the Wuhan virus spread online, one video became emblematic of its claimed origin. It showed a young Chinese woman supposedly in Wuhan biting into a virtually whole bat as she held the creature up with chopsticks. So I'm gonna show you a quick still of that video. And so people saw that and they thought, oh, this is where it originated from. She's a Chinese woman, she ate a bat, and that's how the virus was transmitted from the bat to a human. Except this is a photo that was taken by a travel show host back in 2016, and it wasn't even in China.
Oops.
Yeah. So look, I get it. People are gonna panic. People are gonna say crazy things. They're gonna freak out. I think the media likes to sensationalize stuff like this a little bit. I'm not trying to minimize the coronavirus. It's something that should be taken seriously. But at the same time, the way that it's been exploited for these sensationalistic stories is just gross. And the way that it's being used by bad faith actors at Fox, for instance, just to stir up hatred toward the Chinese is also incredibly gross.
Yeah, look, I know people want to joke around on air, and I get it. We've joked around on air, and it's fine. But look at the manner in which it's being done. So I want you to think about it, because if you're in the same ethnic group as them, you might not even recognize it's not your fault, because we all live our different perspectives and et cetera. But he's blaming Chinese people, and everybody's laughing like, oh, that's funny. Because none of them are Chinese, and they think it's funny to say Chinese people eat bats as snakes, and that's why they unleashed a plague on the world.
Because in America, we don't eat anything gross and questionable.
But so what's the funny part? So is it funny because haha, the Chinese are weird? So is he joking or is he not joking? Because is he saying that it's not really, it would be a joke if it's not really the Chinese people's fault, and there's Chinese people on the panel and they're kidding around and it's kind of a family atmosphere. That's okay, I get it, right? Mm-hmm. But where's the joke? I think he does mean it. I don't think he's joking.
Yeah, I mean,
I think they're laughing because they're uncomfortable, right?
Yeah, I think his co-hosts are laughing because they're uncomfortable. I think that's clear.
But where's the punchline? Where's the punchline? So is the punchline Chinese people are gross? Is that the punchline? So look, guys, my kids are Chinese. My wife's Chinese, so obviously my kids are half Turkish, half Chinese. And I don't know, are they gonna go to school now and people are gonna say, do you guys eat bats and snakes? Did you guys cause the coronavirus? Is it your fault? Are you gross? They don't care about that. To them, the Chinese are the others. It never occurs to them that Chinese are also Americans. Like, hey, we have a lot of Chinese Americans in this country. And for guys like Jesse Waters, and he did a segment about Chinatown where he said awfully racist things a little while back. It actually made Ronnie Chang's career, the comedian who then fought him back on The Daily Show, et cetera, and is a wonderful comic now. But Jesse Waters has a history of thinking it's really funny to make racist jokes about Chinese people with no punchlines at all.
I know, but that's just who he is. And to be honest with you, I'm not even interested in like judging him as like this immoral, racist, xenophobic, whatever person. Like that's just who he is. And I know what we're dealing with him, right? But the problem is he spreads this type of misinformation that, first of all, leads to people being misinformed and not really knowing how to deal with the coronavirus or how to prepare for the coronavirus. He's talking about, the Chinese government, maybe even the Chinese embassy, they owe us an apology. I don't know, I spoke to your ex-wife. She thinks you owe her an apology for cheating on her with one of your producers and leaving her for that. How about that? I'd like to see that apology, you
By the way,
scumbag.
Okay, so when Anna says that, I swear to God, everyone who's on TV and the elites will be so mad at her.
Good, be mad, don't care.
Okay, and they'll think, well, Jesse Waters is just making a racist joke, that's benign. You insulted someone inside the club, Jesse Waters, so that's unacceptable. And you did it in a personal way, whereas he's just smearing billions of people, and that's fine. And now everybody thinks they're savages, and that's in the club, that's totally acceptable. But talking about your personal failings, if somebody else in the club, not acceptable.
I just really care about family values, Cenk.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys care about family values? All the people who are clutching their pearls at what I just said about Jesse Waters being a scumbag?
And so look, I'm an American. We, unfortunately, it was our country that started the Iraq War. Jesse, did we ever? Now, I was dead set against the Iraq War. Young Turks was one of the very, very few shows nationally on air at the time. In fact, only one of 2 shows who was opposed to the Iraq War. We were right, you were wrong. Did you ever apologize for hundreds of thousands of dead Iraqi civilians, you monster? Did you ever apologize for the $6 trillion we spent on Iraq and Afghanistan? Did you apologize for the over 5,000 troops we lost in Iraq and Afghanistan wars? And actually just Iraq alone, over 50,000 wounded, missing legs. Fox News helped start that war. So did you ever, the Chinese should apologize? No, wait a minute. A disease came out of a certain area in the world. We actively made a choice to bomb the living hell out of a country and murder hundreds of thousands of civilians. Did we ever apologize for that? So please spare me your nonsense, racism disguised as humor.
Right.
We're not entertained.
All right, well, let's move on to some other news. There is some good news, but there's a caveat to it, so let's talk about it. After more than 240 days, Australia is finally free of the bushfires that it was suffering from, and of course they were exacerbated by climate change. Now, the epicenter of this was New South Wales, and it took hundreds of days for firefighters to put out all the bushfires. And it was reported by the New South Wales Rural Fire Service. Let me give you what their statement was. For the first time since, early July 2019, there is currently no active bush or grass fires in New South Wales. That's more than 240 days of fire activity for the state. Now, just to give you a sense of how much climate change really exacerbated the situation, there were fires in every Australian state, but New South Wales was hardest hit with smoke so bad in Sydney in December that air quality measured 11 times the hazardous level.
So, former TYT employee Eric Byler was stuck in one of these fires. His family went on vacation. They were cornered by 3 different fires, and they couldn't get out. And they then started thinking about pulling in ships onto shore to rescue the family stuck there. They eventually made it out when one of the fires went down for a little bit, and then they made it out to safety, and then the fire began again raging. And I read his story, and I read parts of it on air, and it was harrowing. And we're burning ourselves to death. I mean, Antarctica a couple of weeks ago was hotter than Death Valley.
I know, yeah.
Climate change is not theoretical, it's not later. 99% of the world's scientists are not lying. If you think that, I don't know how many times I could say you're insane and stupid, because you are. It's not a political difference of opinion. It's like saying, well, I think 2 + 2 = 5, and that's because I'm a Republican, and it's offensive for you to tell me it's not 5. It isn't 5, it's 4. And climate change is real. 99% of the world's scientists aren't lying, you morons.
So I think part of the problem is how we just trust that they don't believe that climate change is real. And I think that we need to stop doing that, because they know what the truth is, right? The Prime Minister of Australia knows what the truth is, but the reason why he refuses to do anything about climate change or to take it seriously is because their economy depends on the coal industry. And it's the same issue that we have with the fossil fuel industry here in the United States. He knows what the reality is. You think that he hasn't read the reports? You think that he hasn't been confronted with the truth over and over and over again? No, his financial well-being depends on him pretending like he doesn't know what the truth is.
Yeah, I want to be clear. The Republican politicians are almost always worse than the Republican voters. And here, it's a Hobson's choice, but Republican politicians are doing it on purpose. Whether it's Australia or here, they take loads and loads of money from Exxon and oil and gas companies, et cetera. And then they have gross Democrats like John Hickenlooper drinking fracking fluid as a form of submission to corporate America, okay? And then they have all the Republicans on their side, of course, lying ad nauseum. You think they don't know? They know they're lying on purpose, right? But their voters, because of their politicians, because of Fox News and the right-wing blogs, their voters got duped, and they really think all the scientists in the world are lying. They think, oh, well, the weather goes up, the weather goes down, man. It snowed the other day. Fox News told me it snowed. It's okay. You got duped because you're a dupe, okay? Read a science book.
Yeah.
Talk to it. Read anything related to science. For God's sake, do a Google search outside of Fox News and the right-wing blogosphere. Just look at any fact at all. Pick any country in the world and pick their top scientists, and they agree with us.
Well, I have good news for you, because the impact of climate change is so undeniable, and people are now experiencing it firsthand, so they can't help but come to terms with the truth, right? So even though there's all this misinformation, even though these politicians lie over and over again, right-wing media lies over and over again, there are conservatives who actually do enjoy nature. They enjoy the healthy environment they once lived in, right? And so I remember being in Alaska, and there's a glacier called the Mendenhall Glacier, which has like melted considerably. It used to be this giant glacier that's like receding. And so while I was in this group, there was like this little conservative couple. And I say little because they were like this cute old couple. And the man was like, I know that this is an inappropriate thing to bring up because it's political, but I mean, I keep hearing that climate change isn't real, but I mean, we see it right in front of us right now, right? And he's
yes, you do.
They can't deny it. They can't deny it because it's right in front of them. And if they're not seeing it through glaciers and things like that, they're experiencing it firsthand from extreme weather conditions that have destroyed their homes, fires that have burnt down their entire neighborhoods, killed their pets. I mean, people are seeing it. And so, unfortunately, I think that if we don't act now, it's gonna be too late. So we're coming to terms with this way too late. We need to act today.
By the way, there's an election right this year. If Trump wins, that's another 4 years gone. Another 4 years where we won't do anything. He's like, oh, I'm proud that we do a lot of oil and gas. We keep drilling, baby. Oh yeah, we're so good at drilling. We're drilling the planet into oblivion. We're gonna release the Balrog. We're in the middle of doing it right now. And Fox News is poisoning the world. And you've got conservatives whose houses are on fire going, no, Fox News told me it's not on fire, so don't worry about it. No, you should worry about it. I got news for you. Fox News doesn't know better than all the scientists in the world. And if you think that, boy, wow, I feel so sad for you, because that's really pathetic.
500 million animals in Australia were impacted by these fires. In New South Wales alone, 500 million. animals.
Impacted as in most of them burned to death.
Yes, exactly. So there are real consequences to our inaction and refusal to accept climate change for what it is. And people are losing their lives, their livelihoods, their pets, everything as a result of that. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have some fun stories, including Bloomberg being called out as a racist by a Trump supporter, and also latex vixens. What are they? Why are they in the news? I'll tell you when we come back.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. Young Turks. All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best. First members, Whisper of a Dream says, upgraded my account to producer. We have your back, TYT. Thank you. You can do that too, tyt.com/upgrade. Spinerman says, thanks for reading me on air. Can't wait to tell my wife. Here's a little known piece of info. Spiner is a mathematical construction that shows you the world opposite to what you expect. You and Anna are spiners. And you pronounce it perfectly. Well, thank you. That's a wonderful thing to say. Appreciate it.
Not to be mistaken for a spinster.
Yeah, or spinning like the mainstream media does. Mountains Win Again says, Fox, where bigotry is the punchline. Indeed. Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, and thank you for using that as well. Thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement. Thank you. Rodolfo Guana says, just donate $127. We'll make this recurring payment every 2 weeks and increase if I can. You are one of the bastions, last bastions of truth. Wow. Keep doing what you do. We need you now more than ever. Thank you so much, Rodolfo. And guys, we're gonna do the thermometer during our main coverage of the election, which starts at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern. Polls are gonna close in 20 minutes in Virginia. We'll update you on that as soon as we have information. Wesley Williams says, thank you so much, TYT. I've been watching you all since I was in high school and growing intellectually ever since. Now I'm a PhD student working to help change the pharmaceutical industry for the better.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that, appreciate it. And guys, the drive we're doing is tyt.com/go. Tell you how much we raised when we get into our coverage. Look at this, stupendous man on Twitter says, just donated $250. Wow, been watching since 06. Without you all, none of this would have been possible. Solidarity forever, I appreciate it. Terry W says, I've been a member a short while now, love TYT, enjoy my $50 donation. Come visit Kentucky sometime. I've been there many times, brother, can't wait. I would love for Bernie Sanders, if he's the nominee, to do his headquarters in Kentucky. We'll talk more about that later. And then there's so many here. I'll do one last one. Steven Real Life says, donated $15 on top of my monthly membership. You get what used to be my NPR donation following their treatment of Sanders in 2016. I rely on #TYT Live for progressive news and facts. You cover the topics I care about, and I appreciate you all literally every day. We appreciate you every day, otherwise we're not on air, okay? And you're right, man. If you all have subscriptions and donate to news organizations that attack progressives 24/7, maybe you should rethink that. tyt.com/go. Thank you, guys.
All right, look, let's break this up with a little bit of fun. That was fun, but the stories aren't necessarily fun. This one will be, all right? I know this is a little out of our box, but this is a story that I couldn't help but discuss just for a little bit.
Yep, right, let's do it.
What does Fox News and sexy vixen Vinyl have in common? Well, they hold a special place in Brit Hume's heart. So in a poorly cropped screenshot posted on Twitter, Brit Hume thought he was just simply sharing a screenshot of the betting odds on whether Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden would beat Donald Trump. But since it was poorly cropped, unfortunately, he left the tabs from his computer at the top of the image. And what did those tabs say exactly? Well, we learned that he likes to bank at SunTrust, but then in the middle there you see sexy vixen vinyl.
Oh.
Dirty, dirty.
Is that, access your funds. Okay, I thought it was like access your fun. I'm like, what are we accessing there? And then it leads naturally into coronavirus.
No, but like, let's just talk about his train of thought, right? He's like, I better check my bank account, make sure I'm doing okay. Oh, I like what I see. I'm feeling very excited.
So yeah, after he sees his bank account, he's like, I can go to Sexy Vixen Vinyl. I'm okay there. And then after he goes there, he's like, let me check in and see if I got coronavirus.
So he's 76 years old. So good for him.
All right, break.
Right?
Okay, you go get him, big guy.
You know, still out there. He's alive. He's feeling it. He's feeling himself. Like
well,
literally.
okay, all right, all right.
Look, I'm not judgmental at all, but I do find it hilarious how conservative men like keep making this mistake on Twitter.
Yeah.
You had like Ted Cruz liking a porn video, and then that was posted on Twitter, right? It was like a MILF porn or whatever that he was looking at.
No, it was incest porn.
It was what?
Incest porn. Okay, now look, it was like one of those. I'm
judging that.
Yeah, the stepmom with a thing and etc. Right? Now the thing is, with Republicans, they just get away with everything. Imagine if Bernie Sanders accidentally sent the porn that he was watching on Twitter.
Of course, this misogynist. Yeah. Of course, he watches this degrading stuff. Yeah, definitely. Like you would, but we all do it. Like, come on.
No, so I'm not. Look, I'm not getting into anybody's porn habits and judging it. No way, right? But if it was the shoe was on the other foot, they'd be like Bernie Sanders with incest porn. And they would disqualify. Ted Cruz, everybody's like, yeah, of course, normal. Senator Cruz watches incest porn and we're all good with it. Let's move on, okay? So it's just the uneven playing field drives me crazy. But we, on the other hand, are not hypocrites. We actually are principled, and that's a problem for progressives. We're too goddamn fair, right?
Right.
So the reality is, okay, so Ted Cruz was watching that. I don't care. He's the only thing I judge him on is what kind of a moron tweets it out by accident.
Who accidentally likes a porn video? Like,
and then puts it on Twitter. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. And guys, I know you're Brit 76 stuff, but the tabs. How many times are you guys gonna make this mistake? And then of course the famous Alex Jones thing where the transgender porn popped up on his phone while he was showing the phone to the camera, and he's like, "Oh, that pops up for everybody." Does it?
Yeah, I've had a cell phone, various cell phones since I was in high school, and I don't know, porn's never just randomly popped up on my phone.
Yeah,
ever.
And again, Alex, if you like that, I don't know, but if you like that, that's great. There's nothing wrong with it. But except you're the one demonizing people for that.
Totally.
And if Brit Hume thinks Sexy Vixen Vinyl or whatever else is going on is great, you should say that on Fox. We're not gonna judge you for it. And you should say, like, hey, look at family values and everything. But like, if you like kinky play, you like leather or vinyl, go for it. Great.
It is like, I think a mild fetish also. So he's lucky that he's into a mild fetish, and this mistake wasn't made when he could possibly be interested in something a little more risque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Who cares? I mean, I don't care about his fetish.
He's into fashion.
So what? Guys, everybody's into something, right? Even Fox News anchors. All we're asking Fox News and conservatives to do is stop judging the rest of us. Get off our ass, if you will.
Now, there is one person that some conservatives have judged, and I'm here for it. I agree with it. So let's do that story. Michael Bloomberg was asked about his racist actions when he was mayor of New York City. And the question actually came from a Trump supporter during a town hall hosted by Fox News. Take a look at what the question was.
Your stop and frisk hurt a lot of minorities in New York. A simple apology is not enough. If it's okay to call Donald Trump a racist because of his statements, and I'll give you an example, great people on both sides, would it be okay to call you a racist because of your actions as they relate to stop and frisk?
So I'll admit that a question like that coming from a Trump supporter, especially at this point in the game, is rich to say the least. But I do think that it's a fair question because, look, Democrats keep pointing fingers at people like Trump, rightfully so, and they say, hey, he's racist, he's done this, he's done that, he's said this, he's said that. But at the same time, a lot of those Democrats, both in the media and in the political world, have tried to prop up Mayor Bloomberg, who has undoubtedly done incredibly racist things, passed or implemented racist policies when he was in charge in New York City. And what's frustrating is that he begrudgingly apologized, but he still keeps spinning what happened to his advantage. And I want to show you his answer. And before I do, Cenk will jump in, and then we'll debunk, what he's saying and give you the truth of how everything really went down in New York.
Guys, if you didn't see the video we showed you a couple of weeks ago, Michael Bloomberg says, yes, we targeted blacks and Latinos on purpose. Yes, we avoided whites on purpose. If that's already pretty much the textbook definition of racism, but hold. He then went on to say, if black people didn't have guns on them, that just means they kept it at home. No, that's the definition of racism. Black people are guilty for being black, okay? And we don't care if they're not actually guilty. We're just gonna assume that they are. And so if you feel like, oh yeah, but he's against Trump, or for now he calls himself a Democrat, so maybe I should cut him a break. No, that's not how it works. And so I don't know that any action could be more racist, but hold. We're gonna show you Bloomberg's answer, but then later, I also wanna tell you a story that Jamal Bowman wrote about recently. He's a congressional candidate in New York. He's a wonderful educator in New York. Started his own school, and it's an award-winning school. But what he went through, I really want you to hear it because I want you to understand what it was like to be a black man in New York during Bloomberg's time.
All right, so now let's go to how Bloomberg answered that question.
What happened was about the third term, it started to get out of hand, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but the number of stop and frisks went up dramatically. And when I realized that, I cut 95% of them out. And I apologize for it. It was a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. I made mine. I apologize for it. But the intent was to stop the murders of young men and women who are carrying guns, or have friends who are carrying guns, or neighbors who are carrying guns, or just strangers in the neighborhood carrying guns. And there was nothing, we didn't pick on any particular ethnicity. The cops always went to the high crime neighborhoods, and particularly when a crime was reported. That's what police do.
So as I was listening to Bloomberg's answer, I couldn't help but really share the feelings of the gentleman on the lower left-hand side of the screen. This is the guy that I'm talking about.
Was about the third term, it started to get out of hand, and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but the number of stop and frisks went up dramatically. And when I realized that, everybody makes mistakes. I made mine. I apologize for it. But the intent was, there was nothing, we didn't pick on any particular ethnicity. The cops always went to the high crime neighborhoods, and particularly when a crime was reported. That's what police do.
All right, so real quick, let me give you the truth and then Cenk, go off, okay? Yeah. So Bloomberg did not roll back stop and frisk policing on his own accord. We've talked about this before. It was only after a federal judge appointed a moderator to investigate claims of racial profiling by the NYPD that the city began to dramatically decrease its use. The cops absolutely did, as we know from the statistics, target specific groups of people, Latinos and black individuals specifically. That same federal judge, by the way, ultimately ruled that the policing tactic was an unconstitutional violation of civil rights because it did, in fact, target minorities, which is why the city officially abandoned the policy not long after Bloomberg left office.
Bloomberg's on tape saying we targeted blacks and Latinos on purpose. So I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Where he says, well, we didn't target minorities. Lie, 100% lie. There's cops on tape who tell people that reporting to them, other cops, they say you must target blacks and Latinos. When the guy doesn't do it and he does racially diverse stop and frisk, they reprimand him and they yell at him and they say don't look at white people anymore. Only blacks and Latinos do crimes. Okay, and he said, oh, we didn't send him. We sent him to high crime neighborhoods. What can I do? I'll tell you the biggest high crime neighborhood in New York City. It's called Wall Street. But you never sent anyone there except to collect your checks from your Bloomberg terminals, okay? They robbed us of billions of dollars and you never sent a single cop to stop and frisk those Wall Street guys. Anyway, now I want to tell you about Jamal Bowman. He's a Just Democrat candidate now running in New York. You should look him up, he's amazing. He set up his own school to help kids there. He was so sick of the school to prison pipeline and they had the best increase in grades in New York City. So he wrote a story recently, I believe it's on NBC, where he explained, even though he's this accomplished educator, every once in a while cops in New York just pull him over, and they never give a reason. And he says he never asked them, because if you ask them, you're gonna get beat. And sometimes his kids are with him, and he doesn't want to have his kids see their dad beat up by the cops like a common criminal. So he doesn't exercise his rights to simply ask, hey, why are you stopping me? Or why are you arresting me? And if you're wondering, well, dude, he must have done something, right? Nope. In both of the instances that he explained in detail, they eventually release him. A lot of times after a long, long time. And they never explain why they arrested him. He was black. And hey, he's probably guilty of something. God damn it turns out he isn't guilty of anything. Okay. But the part that really got me was two things. One was they bring him to jail, never explain to him why they did, not before, not after. And there's only room for one person to sit, but the three people in the jail. So you gotta sit on the floor next to the toilet soaked in urine. That's a professional, man. That's a guy who's uplifting his community. And you do that to him, but Jamal's not alone. It happens to the majority of African Americans and Latinos. That's the brutal racism of Mike Bloomberg. Another time, it happens in front of his kid. For God's sake, man, that kind of just nonchalant discrimination, racism, it's soul crushing. And so when people talk about white privilege, it's such a wrong phrase because it puts people on defensive, like, wait, well, I don't have any privilege, I'm not rich, etc. No, guys, the only thing is, it's a privilege where you didn't have to sit on a urine-soaked bathroom on a prison floor for no reason. You didn't get arrested in front of your kids for no reason. And you didn't have to go through that indignity. And that's what blacks and Latinos suffered on a regular basis under Mike Bloomberg.
And what's also interesting about Bloomberg is that in this Democratic primary race, he and Donald Trump have been going at it. They've been fighting back and forth, even though they've had a long history of friendship together. They've gone golfing several times together. In this race, they're pretending like they can't stand each other. They have some serious similarities when it comes to the types of policies that they support. In fact, I want to go to the next video. This is Donald Trump weighing in on stop and frisk.
There's been a lot of violence in the black community. I want to know, what would you do to help stop that violence? Black on black crime.
Right. Well, one of the things I'd do, Ricardo, is I would do stop and frisk. I think you have to. We did it in New York. It worked incredibly well. And you have to be proactive. And you really help people sort of change their mind automatically. You understand. You have to have, in my opinion, I see what's going on here. I see what's going on in Chicago. I think stop and frisk. In New York City, it was so incredible the way it worked.
So in the beginning of the story, we shared that video of a gentleman by the name of Daniel Rivera, who asked that question about stop and frisk toward Mayor Bloomberg and said, it was a racist policy, it was wrong. He's a Trump supporter, so I hope that Daniel Rivera, some way, somehow, sees what Donald Trump is in favor of, because he obviously is in favor of stop and frisk as well. The similarities between Bloomberg and Trump are incredible.
The other day I figured out why Democratic establishment was so enamored with Mike Bloomberg when he entered, because they're usual wrong-headed, I'm being incredibly polite, idea is, we'll run corporate Democrats that are Republican light. Joe Donnelly will pretend to be a Republican in Indiana. He lost to the actual Republican. And they'll do it again and again and again, right? And in this case, they're like, I got it, we'll run Trump light. Okay, he's just like Trump, but richer, a little smarter, a little bit more subtle about his racism and bigotry. Although his actions are not really subtle at all. He said it on tape, and we're not even talking about his bigotry towards Muslims. Take as a given. I mean, horrible, horrible bigotry. We can go on and on. And so, here's a guy with issues of women at work. Here's a guy with that hates all these different groups and has done discriminatory things.
Who's worked with the CIA to spy on completely innocent Muslim citizens in New York.
Until they figure out what the hell is going on, right? And a really wealthy guy from New York. The idiot Democratic establishment thought, great, we'll copy the Republicans again and we'll do Trump light. What a disastrous idea. So that's who Mike Bloomberg is. And sometimes when I see the details, I don't love doing this job because I wish I didn't know what a terrible person he was. But I do now, and you can't unknow it. And that's just the reality of it. Sad day for him. And both of them, and Trump is on the record 5 different times saying he loves stop and frisk. And I gotta tell you the reality. After the judge made them stop doing stop and frisk, crime went down, not up. Stop and frisk did not help crime at all. Once they stopped the program, you had less crime. So they don't know anything. It's not to actually guard against crime. It's just to further their racism.
Well, let's move on to Joe Biden. Actually, you know what? We should take a break. So let's do that. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Trump is doing exactly what you would expect him to do with Biden and his unstoppable gaffes on the campaign trail, which again proves the point that I've been trying to make. He is not the best candidate to beat Donald Trump in the general election. We're taking a huge risk in nominating someone like Biden.
Look, I wish we had more time on Biden before Super Tuesday. We're at Super Tuesday, people are already voting, but he's a disaster. They picked the wrong guy. Virginia polls close in 2 minutes. We'll give you updates as soon as we have them. And then later in the night, giant states like Texas and California. This is as big as it gets. Don't miss a minute of tonight's coverage. We'll have results for you the minute we have it. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.